Tom and Maria had always enjoyed living in their quiet suburban neighborhood. The streets were clean, the houses neatly lined, and the neighbors polite. Each morning, the sun would rise over the small hills behind their home, filling their living room with soft golden light. Tom loved to sit by the window, drinking his coffee while reading the morning news. Maria preferred tending to her small flower garden, arranging colorful roses, lilies, and daisies in a way that made their yard look like a tiny paradise. Life was simple and calm. That calm morning, however, was about to change. The sound of knocking on the front door echoed through the house. Tom glanced at the clock. It was late morning and he wasn't expecting anyone. Maria wiped her hands on her apron and walked toward the door. She opened it slowly, peering through the small window at the visitors outside. Two people stood there, a man and a woman. Both wore dark uniforms that looked official at first glance. They carried small badges that shimmered in the sunlight. "Good morning," the man said, his voice firm. "We are from the HOA security team. We've received reports that there may be firearms stored in this home. We need to inspect your safe immediately." Tom's eyes narrowed. He stepped in front of Maria, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry," he said carefully, "but we do not allow anyone to enter our home without proper verification. You need to provide official documents and identification before we can talk further." The man's lips tightened. "This is serious. It is a violation if you refuse. Open the safe now." Maria's gaze was calm, but there was a sharpness in her eyes. She had noticed something off the moment the two people stepped onto the porch. Their badges looked real, but their movements, their tone, and the way they avoided eye contact gave them away. Something was wrong. Tom whispered to her. "Do you think they are real?" Maria shook her head slightly. "I don't think so. Stay calm. Let me handle this if it gets worse." Tom was curious about her words. He had been married to Maria for a few years now, and while he knew she was brave and smart, he did not know the full extent of her past. Maria had been in the military before they met. She had training in security, strategy, and handling dangerous situations. But she rarely spoke about it. Tom had only ever seen her use her skills in small ways, like fixing locks, organizing their home efficiently, or staying calm in emergencies. He trusted her completely, but today, he realized he might soon see another side of her he had not experienced. The man and woman grew more impatient. They began moving their hands toward the door, trying to intimidate Tom. "We can do this quickly," the man said. "There is no need for trouble. Step aside." Tom's voice was firm. "I told you, no one enters without proper verification. You need to leave now." Maria took a small step forward. Her posture was straight, her shoulders relaxed but strong. She observed the visitors carefully, noting the way they shifted their weight, the tension in their shoulders, and the way their eyes darted around. She did not reach for a weapon, but her calm presence alone gave a sense of authority. The visitors hesitated. They did not expect resistance. Most people would panic, open their doors, or try to argue without thinking. But Tom and Maria were different. They were united, confident, and alert. Maria spoke again, her voice quiet but commanding. "You are trespassing. Leave immediately or we will call the real authorities. This is your only warning." The man's expression changed slightly. He glanced at the woman, then back at Maria and Tom. He could sense that their intimidation tactics were not working. Maria's calmness and confidence made him uneasy. Tom took out his phone. "I'm calling the police now," he said, holding it up to show he meant business. The visitors froze for a moment. Maria's eyes never left them. She had learned to read people in the military, to notice fear, hesitation, and lies. And right now she could tell that these people were pretending. Their badges were fake, their authority was false, and their intentions were not honest. The man tried one last time to push the door. "You don't understand. We are only trying to enforce the rules. Step aside." Maria moved slightly, not in a threatening way, but in a way that showed she was ready for any sudden movement. Tom stood close to her, still holding the door firmly. He watched her carefully. In this moment, he realized that Maria's training was about more than just skills. It was about mindset, confidence, and knowing how to stay calm under pressure. The visitors hesitated again. They were nervous now. Maria's presence made them uncomfortable. They did not realize that she had faced far more dangerous situations before, and that she could handle threats with precision. Tom felt a mix of relief and admiration. He had always known Maria was strong, but now he understood just how capable she really was. He whispered softly, "I am glad you are here with me." Maria gave a small nod, her eyes never leaving the visitors. "Stay calm. Let them make the next move. We are in control here." The man and woman glanced at each other, clearly unsure. They had expected easy compliance, not a united front of courage and confidence. Maria's stance and calm voice communicated something they could not fake: readiness. Suddenly, Tom realized how different this was from anything they had ever faced. This was not a routine visit or a polite request. These people were trying to intimidate, to take something that was not theirs. And yet the way Maria stood, the way she moved with quiet authority, made it clear that they were not welcome here. The tension grew. The visitors looked around nervously, perhaps realizing they were in over their heads. They tried to make a sudden move, but Maria was faster. She adjusted her position, not aggressively but with precision and control. Her military training showed in every subtle movement. Tom could hardly believe how composed she was. He had seen her handle challenges before, but this was different. This was real danger disguised as authority, and Maria was handling it without raising her voice, without panicking, without making a mistake. Finally, the man and woman stepped back slightly, uncertainty written on their faces. Maria's eyes followed them carefully, reading every micro-expression. She knew they were bluffing. She knew that if they tried to force their way, it would only end badly for them. Tom felt a sense of relief wash over him, but he stayed alert. He knew better than to assume it was over. Maria whispered, "Keep your phone ready. We will wait for the police." Tom nodded. He realized something important in that moment. He had married someone who was not just brave, but capable in ways he had never fully understood. Someone who could face danger calmly and intelligently, and protect her family without hesitation. The visitors shifted nervously, their fake authority crumbling under the weight of Maria's presence. They muttered to each other, clearly debating what to do next. Tom whispered to Maria, "Do you think they will leave?" Maria's eyes were steady. "Yes, they will leave. But we stay ready. Never underestimate people who are desperate or dishonest." The visitors finally turned toward the street, unsure whether to flee or continue their act. Maria remained still, her gaze unwavering. Tom watched them, grateful for her strength and control. As the sound of their footsteps faded, Tom and Maria exchanged a look. It was a mixture of relief, pride, and understanding. They had faced an unusual threat together, and they had done so with composure and courage. Tom thought about their safe, the very reason these strangers had come. It contained nothing illegal, only items for security and collection, but its presence had been enough to tempt dishonest people. Maria had seen through the deception immediately, and her calm, strategic approach had kept them safe. For the first time in their quiet suburban life, Tom realized that danger could come from unexpected places. But he also realized that having Maria by his side made him feel protected in ways he had never imagined. Together, they were stronger than any threat, no matter how convincing it appeared. And so the morning ended with a renewed sense of security. Tom returned to his coffee, Maria to her garden, and the neighborhood remained peaceful once more, unaware of the brief moment of tension that had passed in the quiet house on the sunny street. The sun was slowly setting, casting long golden lines across Tom and Maria's living room. The strange visit from the fake HOA officers still echoed in their minds. Tom tried to act normal, but his thoughts kept circling back to the moment those two strangers had tried to enter their home. The calm voice, the fake badges, and the sudden pressure to open the safe, none of it made sense. Maria sat at the kitchen table, holding a notepad and writing down everything she could remember about them. Tall, dark uniform, fake badge with silver outline, name unreadable, she murmured softly. Tom watched her as she worked with steady focus. She was listing every small detail, from their accents to the color of their car. Tom finally asked, "Do you really think they were fake cops?" Maria looked up. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "Yes, I am sure of it. Their uniforms didn't match any official pattern, and their badges were printed. They didn't have proper numbers or symbols. Also, real HOA officers never handle weapon-related issues. They crossed several lines." Tom nodded slowly. "You noticed everything so fast?" "I didn't even think about half of that." Maria smiled faintly. "Training teaches you to read people and surroundings. The smallest detail can expose a lie. Those two weren't professionals. They were nervous and unsure of what to do once they met resistance. She turned back to her notes. They wanted something specific. They asked about the safe. That means they either knew about it or heard rumors. Tom frowned. Only a few people know I even have a safe. My cousin helped install it, and I told the HOA months ago when they asked about fireproof storage for insurance purposes. Maria's eyes lifted. Then it might be someone inside the neighborhood. Someone who has information and is passing it to others. The words sent a cold feeling through Tom's chest. He had always trusted his neighbors. They greeted each other, shared tools, and talked about community events. But now a shadow of doubt spread in his mind. Later that evening, Maria walked outside to water her plants. The sky was dim and the streetlights flickered on one by one. Across the street, she noticed a car parked near the corner. Its engine was off, but the headlights flashed once before turning dark again. She paused for a moment, pretending to check her flowers, but her eyes studied the vehicle carefully. She recognized it. It was the same gray car she had seen earlier, when the fake officers left. Her instincts told her that they had not truly gone far. She quietly stepped back inside. "Tom, come here," she said softly. Tom joined her near the window. She pointed toward the car. "That's them." He peered outside and his stomach tightened. "What do they want now?" Maria shook her head. "I don't know yet, but they are watching. Maybe waiting to see if we lower our guard." Tom felt uneasy. "Should we call the police again?" Maria thought for a moment. "Not yet. Let's gather more information first. If we call too early, they might drive away before officers arrive and we'll lose proof. We'll be careful and stay inside." For the next few hours, they kept the lights dim and watched the car quietly from the living room. It didn't move. The figures inside seemed to be waiting, occasionally shifting or checking their phones. Maria stayed patient. People like them often make mistakes when they think no one is watching. They get impatient. Tom sat beside her, feeling a mix of fear and admiration. He could tell she was in control. Every move she made was calculated. She wasn't afraid. She was alert and ready. Finally, near midnight, the car started. Its headlights turned on and it drove away slowly. Maria noted the direction. They went toward the east exit. "That road leads to the main city. We can report that to the police tomorrow." Tom sighed in relief. "I just hope they don't come back." Maria looked at him and said calmly, "They might, but we'll be ready if they do." The next morning, Maria woke up early. She made breakfast and sat by the table with her laptop open. She searched for similar reports online. Within minutes, she found several cases where fake HOA or safety inspectors had tried to enter homes in nearby towns. Most cases involved people pretending to check for safety violations or hidden items. Once inside, they would steal valuables or personal information. She showed the screen to Tom. "See this? It's a pattern. They choose quiet areas with trusting residents. They act like authority figures and people let them in." Tom clenched his fists. "So they've been doing this before." "That means they'll try again somewhere else," Maria nodded. "Yes, but we'll make sure they don't try it here again. We'll help the police catch them." They decided to visit the local police station that afternoon. Officer Raymond, a calm and experienced officer, listened carefully as Maria explained everything, from the fake badges to the car parked outside their house. She handed over her detailed notes and a sketch she had made of the man and woman. Raymond leaned back in his chair. "You did the right thing by not opening the door. We've had similar reports, but no one had such clear information before. This will help us a lot." He thanked them and promised to send patrol cars through their neighborhood more often. As they drove home, Tom felt a sense of relief, but also unease. What if those people find out we went to the police? Maria kept her eyes on the road. They probably already know. But that's fine. They'll stay away if they think we're not easy targets. Bullies avoid strong people. That evening, Tom and Maria decided to install a few security upgrades. Tom placed small cameras near the porch and backyard. Maria checked all doors and windows to make sure they locked properly. Their home began to look like a small fortress, not out of fear but preparation. The neighbors noticed the changes. One of them, an older man named Ron, walked over and asked, "Everything all right, Tom? You two look busy." Tom hesitated for a moment, then explained the situation briefly. Ron looked shocked. "Fake officers? Around here? I can't believe it," Maria added. "We don't want to alarm anyone, but it's good to stay alert. If you see anyone acting strange, report it immediately." Ron nodded and promised to tell others. Within a day, the whole neighborhood knew about what had happened. People began checking their locks, putting up cameras, and watching more carefully who came to their doors. That night, the streets were quieter than usual. The usual sound of laughter from nearby houses had faded. Everyone was cautious. But inside Tom and Maria's home, there was a sense of calm confidence. Tom looked at Maria and said, "You were right." Staying calm and thinking clearly made all the difference. "I would have panicked if it weren't for you." Maria smiled softly. Panic never helps. It gives power to the wrong people. The best defense is awareness and patience. She poured him a cup of tea and looked out the window one last time. The street was empty now, only the soft hum of distant crickets filling the air. Still, she stayed alert. Years of training had taught her that danger often returns when people feel safe again. But this time, she and Tom were prepared. The fake officers had underestimated them once. If they returned, they would find a couple ready to protect their home with calm minds and strong hearts. And as the clock ticked quietly in the living room, Maria knew that the real story wasn't over yet. Something told her that those people weren't finished, and the next encounter might test their strength even more. Days passed quietly after the strange visit. The police had increased patrols in the area, and the neighbors were more alert than before. Still, Maria could not shake the feeling that something was not over. She often stood by the window at night, scanning the street for any sign of the gray car. Tom tried to reassure her, but deep down he shared her concern. One evening, as the sun began to set, Tom returned home from work with groceries. He smiled at Maria and said, "The store was busier than usual. People seem nervous these days." Maria nodded while preparing dinner. "Everyone is being careful after what happened. That's a good thing." Just as they were setting the table, a sound outside caught their attention. It was the low hum of a car engine. Tom looked through the window and froze. "It's them," he whispered. Maria joined him and saw the same gray car parked across the street again. The engine was still running. She noticed movement inside, like someone watching their house. Tom's heartbeat quickened. "Should I call the police now?" Maria placed her hand on his arm. "Wait, let's see what they are doing first. If we act too fast, they might escape again." The car stayed parked for several minutes. Then suddenly the headlights turned off and two figures stepped out. They were the same fake officers from before. They wore the same dark uniforms, but now they carried clipboards pretending to be inspectors. Maria's voice was calm but steady. "They are bold to come back again. They must want something specific," Tom whispered. "Maybe they want to break in when we are distracted." Maria thought for a moment. "They will not get the chance this time. We will handle this properly." She walked to the front door and locked it. Then she quietly moved through the hallway, turning off most of the lights. Her movements were quiet and calculated. She motioned for Tom to stay near the phone and record what happened. The two imposters approached the house, their footsteps crunching softly on the gravel. They knocked firmly on the door. "Homeowners Association inspection," the man announced. "We need to follow up on the security report." "Open the door, please." Maria stayed silent, watching them from behind the curtain. She noticed how the man kept glancing around, checking if anyone was watching. The woman beside him looked uneasy, as if she regretted coming back. The man knocked again. "We are here to complete a mandatory safety check." Maria spoke loudly enough for them to hear through the door. "You are trespassing. Leave now." The man's tone grew sharp. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." "Open the door." Maria motioned to Tom, and he started recording the scene with his phone camera. Then Maria took a deep breath and opened the door slightly, keeping the chain lock on. Her expression was calm and serious. "Show your identification again," she said. The man lifted his fake badge quickly, but she noticed his hands shaking. She said firmly, "That badge is not real. We already reported you to the police last week. You are being recorded right now." The man froze. The woman beside him took a step back. Maria's voice grew stronger. "The police know your car and your faces. If you don't leave this moment, you will be arrested." Tom held his phone steady, capturing everything. The tension in the air grew thicker with every passing second. Finally, the man muttered, "This isn't over," and turned to leave. The woman followed, clearly relieved to escape. They rushed to their car and drove away, tires screeching softly as they sped down the street. Tom exhaled deeply. "That was close. You handled that perfectly." Maria closed the door and locked it again. "They were testing us. They wanted to see how far they could go before getting caught. But now we have proof. She sent the video recording to Officer Raymond immediately, along with a short message describing what had happened. Within minutes, he replied, thanking them for the quick report and promising to track the car. Later that night, Maria sat in the living room, thinking quietly. Tom joined her with 2 cups of tea. "Do you think they'll come again?" he asked. Maria sipped her tea before answering. "No, not in the same way. But people like that rarely stop after one failure. They might try a different approach or send someone else. We need to stay one step ahead." Tom nodded slowly. "I'll add another camera near the driveway. And maybe some motion lights too." Maria smiled. "Good idea. We'll make this house too difficult for anyone to touch." The next day, Officer Raymond visited them personally. He looked serious but impressed. "We traced the car to a rental agency. The names they used were fake, but we're checking nearby cameras for their real identities. Your video helped a lot." Maria thanked him. "They seemed desperate, maybe after something valuable." Raymond agreed. "Yes, but your calm response stopped them from doing worse. Most people panic or argue, but you handled it like a professional." Tom looked proud. "She has training from her time in the military." "I just followed her lead," Raymond smiled. "Then you make a strong team." After he left, Maria took a moment to relax. She walked through the garden, enjoying the scent of fresh flowers. The morning sunlight warmed her face, and for a brief moment she felt peace again. But deep down she knew this peace was fragile. That night, while they were watching television, the doorbell rang again. Tom froze. "Not again," he whispered. Maria stood up calmly. "Stay behind me." She walked to the door and looked through the peephole. This time she saw a different man wearing a delivery uniform and holding a package. "Delivery for Tom," he said. Tom frowned. "I didn't order anything," Maria asked through the door. "Who sent this package?" The man looked uncertain. "It says from the Homeowners Association office." Maria's suspicion grew stronger. She whispered to Tom, "Do not open it." She went to the window and peeked outside. The street was empty except for the delivery man's van. It had no company logo. Her instincts flared. She said loudly, "Leave the package on the porch. We'll collect it later." The man hesitated. "I need a signature." Maria's tone hardened. "No signature. Leave it and go." He slowly placed the box down and walked back to the van. Maria waited until the vehicle was gone before stepping outside carefully. Tom joined her. "What do you think is inside?" Maria shook her head. "We'll not open it. It could be harmless or it could be another trick. We'll call the police to inspect it." They called Officer Raymond again, and within 20 minutes 2 patrol cars arrived. The officers checked the package carefully. When they opened it, they found nothing dangerous inside. Only blank papers and a small note that said, "We'll be back." The message was meant to frighten them, but instead, it gave Maria more determination. After the police left, Tom sat beside her on the couch. "Why are they targeting us so much?" Maria answered softly, "Because we stood up to them. They failed here, so now they want to scare us. But fear only works if we let it." "We won't." Tom reached for her hand. "You're right. We'll protect our home and our peace." Maria looked around the house, now secure and watched by cameras. The flickering security lights outside felt like silent guardians. She knew the danger had not ended, but she also knew they were ready for whatever came next. In her heart, she felt no fear, only focus. She had faced worse during her service, and she knew that calm thinking and patience always defeated chaos. The fake officers thought they could control others through lies and intimidation, but Maria had turned the game around. This time, they had left a warning. Next time, she planned to make sure it would be their last mistake. The next few days passed slowly. The neighborhood was quiet, but the silence felt heavy. Tom and Maria continued their normal routine, though both were alert to every sound. The fake officers had not returned since the strange package incident, yet Maria's instincts told her it was not over. She could sense that the people behind this were watching from the shadows, waiting for another opportunity. One evening, Maria sat by the window while Tom was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The sky was turning orange as the sun dipped below the rooftops. Suddenly, Maria noticed a reflection in the glass. It was the same gray car parked 2 houses down. This time it had no license plate. Her heartbeat slowed as she studied it carefully. She could see 2 figures inside. One of them was the man who had come before. Maria called out softly, "Tom, come here." Tom hurried to her side and looked outside. His eyes widened. "They are back again." Maria nodded. "Yes, but they are not pretending now. They are watching and planning." Tom whispered, "Should we call Officer Raymond?" Maria thought for a moment. "Yes, but we must be smart. They will leave if they see police cars too early. We need to make sure the police can catch them this time." She quickly picked up her phone and texted Officer Raymond. "They are back. Gray car without plate parked near Oak Street. 2 people inside." "Within minutes," Raymond replied. "Stay inside. Don't engage. We are sending plainclothes officers to observe." Maria showed the message to Tom, and they both felt a little relief knowing help was on the way. Still, they remained cautious. Maria turned off most of the lights and continued to watch quietly. After some time, she noticed movement. The man got out of the car and began walking toward their house. He was wearing a cap and gloves, trying to hide his face. The woman stayed behind the wheel. Tom felt his stomach tighten. "He's coming again. What does he want now?" Maria whispered. "They are desperate. Stay calm." The man moved to their front gate and looked around. He then stepped closer, as if checking if anyone was inside. Maria recorded him quietly with her phone, keeping her hand steady. Then suddenly headlights flashed from the far end of the street. 2 unmarked police cars appeared, rolling slowly and quietly. The man noticed too late. He turned to run back to his car, but one of the police cars blocked the road. Officers jumped out, shouting for him to stop. Maria watched the scene unfold. The woman in the car panicked and tried to reverse, but the second police car moved in behind her, cutting off her escape. The entire street filled with flashing red and blue lights. Tom exhaled in relief. They got them. Maria stayed by the window, watching as the officers surrounded the suspects. She saw the man raise his hands reluctantly, while the woman started crying. The police handcuffed both and began questioning them beside the car. A few minutes later, Officer Raymond walked up to Maria's porch. She opened the door to greet him. "Good timing," she said calmly. Raymond smiled slightly. "You were right again. We have been following reports of these same people for weeks. They have been moving from one area to another, pretending to be security or inspectors. We finally caught them because of your report." Tom joined them at the door. "So it's really over?" Raymond nodded. "For these 2, yes. But we will still check if others were working with them," Maria asked. "Did they say why they were targeting us?" Raymond glanced at his notebook. "They knew you had a safe and believed there were valuables or cash inside. They found your address through a contact inside a repair company. One of them shared your information without realizing it would be used for crime. We will handle that person too." Tom looked surprised. "So that's how they knew?" Raymond nodded. "It happens often. They look for people with safes or expensive items, and then plan fake inspections. You both were careful and prevented a serious crime." Maria thanked him. "I am glad it ended this way." The officers stayed for a while, collecting her video recordings and taking statements. After they left, the street slowly returned to normal. The flashing lights faded, and the night grew quiet again. Maria and Tom sat in the living room, both feeling exhausted but relieved. Tom said, "You know, I didn't realize how dangerous things could become so quickly. If you hadn't stayed calm, I might have opened the door that first day." Maria smiled gently. "You were brave too. We faced it together, and that made all the difference." They sat silently for a few minutes, listening to the soft ticking of the clock. For the first time in weeks, Maria allowed herself to relax. The danger had finally passed, and justice had been served. But just as they were about to go to bed, Maria's phone buzzed. It was another message from Officer Raymond. She read it carefully, and her expression changed slightly. Tom asked, "What is it?" Maria handed him the phone. The message said, "We found evidence that these 2 were part of a larger group. We advise you to stay alert for a few more days while we finish the investigation." Tom sighed. "So it's not completely over?" Maria shook her head. "Not yet, but we'll stay ready." The next morning, Maria decided to check their security cameras. She watched the recordings from the previous night. Everything looked clear, but one frame caught her attention. A shadowy figure was seen near the end of the street just before the police arrived. The figure was tall and seemed to be watching the arrest from a distance before disappearing into the dark. Maria frowned. "There's another one." Tom came to look. "Maybe a neighbor?" Maria shook her head. "No, that person was standing too still, just observing. Whoever it was didn't react when the police came. That means they knew what was happening." Tom's eyes widened. "Do you think there's a leader behind them?" Maria nodded slowly. "Probably. The two who were caught might have been following orders. If that person is still around, they could try again." She saved the video clip and sent it to Raymond with a note explaining what she saw. Then she looked at Tom and said, "We'll not let fear control us, but we will not ignore it either." Over the next few days, Maria made sure their home was completely secure. She added stronger locks, checked the alarms, and even set up a small motion detector near the front gate. Tom helped with everything, following her lead. On the fifth night, while Tom was reading and Maria was checking the garden, they heard a faint sound near the fence. It was like someone stepping on dry leaves. Maria motioned for Tom to stay quiet. She moved toward the window and peeked outside. A figure was standing near the same spot where the shadow had appeared in the camera. This time, Maria could see him clearly. It was a man wearing a dark hoodie, watching their house. Maria whispered, "He's here again." Tom felt fear rise in his chest. "What should we do?" Maria calmly picked up her phone and texted Raymond again. "He is back. Near the fence. Alone this time." Within 10 minutes, a police car arrived quietly without sirens. The man near the fence tried to run, but the officers caught him quickly. After a short struggle, they took him away. When Raymond came to the door later, he smiled. "You caught the last one. He was the one giving orders. Now it's really over." Tom felt a wave of relief. "Finally," Maria smiled faintly. "Now we can rest." That night, as they sat together under the warm light of the living room, the fear that had followed them for days began to fade. Their home was peaceful once more. The air outside was cool, and the garden glowed softly under the moonlight. Maria leaned back in her chair, feeling calm for the first time in weeks. Tom looked at her with admiration and gratitude. He said quietly, "You saved us more than once. You always knew what to do." Maria smiled and replied, "I just did what anyone should do when protecting their family. Stay calm, stay smart, and never let fear win." For the first time, the danger was truly behind them. And in the quiet of that night, both Tom and Maria knew that their courage and unity had turned a frightening ordeal into a story of strength and trust that neither would ever forget. A few days after the last arrest, the neighborhood began to feel normal again. The fake officers were gone and their leader had been caught. The police finished their reports and thanked Tom and Maria for their help. The neighbors who had heard about the events came to visit and showed their support. Everyone praised Maria for her courage and quick thinking. Tom felt proud of her. He often told people how calm she had been through everything. Maria would only smile and say, "I just did what needed to be done." But deep down, she knew the whole experience had changed both of them. For the first time in many weeks, Tom and Maria slept peacefully without fear. The garden outside was quiet and the night air carried only the sound of crickets. Tom looked at Maria before falling asleep and said softly, "You were my strength through all this." Maria replied, "We were each other's strength. That is what matters." The next morning, they received a visit from Officer Raymond. He stood at the door with a small folder in his hand. "Good morning," he said with a smile. "I came to tell you the case is officially closed." Tom invited him inside. "That is great news. Please sit down." Raymond sat on the couch and opened the folder. "We confirmed that the people who came to your home were part of a group that had been operating across several towns. They pretended to be inspectors, security staff, or even officers. They targeted homes with safes or security systems. You were one of their last targets," Maria asked. "What will happen to them now?" Raymond answered, "They will be facing serious charges. The leader you helped us catch has confessed. He also gave us the names of others. We have already started tracking them. You both helped stop a long chain of crimes. Tom nodded slowly. That is good to know. We just want peace now, Raymond smiled. You both earned it. The department will send a formal letter of appreciation soon. Your report, recordings, and calm reaction made the biggest difference. Maria thanked him sincerely. We only did what anyone should do when facing danger, but thank you for believing us. After Raymond left, Tom and Maria sat together for a while. The morning sun shone softly through the window. It felt like the first truly peaceful morning in a long time. Tom said, "It feels strange not to worry anymore. I keep expecting something to happen." Maria laughed gently. "That is because fear stays longer than danger, but it will fade." She walked outside to the garden. The flowers had grown taller and the air smelled fresh. She looked around and felt thankful for their quiet home. It was more than just a house now. It was a place that had tested their courage and proved their bond. Over the next few days, life slowly returned to normal. Tom went back to his workshop, fixing old furniture like he always did. Maria began teaching a self-defense class at the community center. She wanted to share what she had learned and help others feel confident in protecting themselves. The class quickly became popular, and people from the neighborhood joined to learn from her. One afternoon after class, a young woman approached Maria and said, "I heard what you went through. You are very brave. I want to learn to stay calm like you." Maria smiled kindly. Bravery is not about being fearless. It is about staying steady even when fear is present. Anyone can learn that. The woman nodded, inspired by her words. At home, Tom was busy installing a new camera system with better coverage. He had learned from the experience as well. He said to himself, "Better safe than sorry." That evening, when Maria returned, she saw the new setup and smiled. "You have turned our home into a small fortress," Tom chuckled. "Maybe, but it feels safer this way." They both laughed and enjoyed a quiet dinner together. The tension that had once filled the house was gone. In its place was a new kind of strength and trust. Later that week, Officer Raymond visited again, this time without his uniform. He carried a small box. "This is for you," he said, handing it to Maria. Inside the box was a simple medal with the words Citizen Courage Award. Maria looked surprised. "I was not expecting this," Raymond smiled. "You deserve it. You showed calm thinking and quick action. The department wanted to thank you both for what you did." Tom stood proudly beside her. "She truly deserves it," he said warmly. Maria blushed slightly and said, "Thank you. I will keep it as a reminder that being prepared can save lives." Raymond nodded. "And remember, if you ever need help or advice, you can always call me." After he left, Tom placed the medal on a shelf near their photo together. It became a symbol of what they had faced and how they overcame it. A few days later, Maria and Tom hosted a small dinner for their neighbors. Everyone brought food and laughter filled the air. The neighborhood that had once been filled with suspicion and fear now felt alive again. The lights from each house glowed warmly, showing how people had come together after danger. During the dinner, one of the older neighbors said, "Maria, you reminded us that being brave and alert can protect everyone. You made this community stronger." Maria smiled humbly. "We all learned something important. When we look out for each other, no one can fool us easily." The evening ended with music and smiles. Tom looked around at the happy faces and felt a deep sense of peace. As the night grew quiet, Maria and Tom sat on the porch. The stars shone brightly above. Tom said softly, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had not been careful that first day?" Maria nodded. "Sometimes I do, but I also believe everything happens for a reason. Maybe this happened so we could learn to be stronger and help others do the same." Tom smiled. "You always see the positive side." Maria looked up at the sky and said, "It is better than living in fear." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars. The cool breeze carried the sound of distant laughter from their neighbors' houses. The danger was gone, but the lessons remained. A few weeks later, Maria received a letter from a nearby town. It was from another police department thanking her for sharing her experience. They said her story helped them catch 2 people using the same tricks to enter homes. Tom read the letter and said proudly, "Your actions helped more people than you know." Maria smiled. "That makes me happy. It means something good came out of all this." Time passed peacefully after that. The house that once felt like a target now felt like a symbol of safety. The neighborhood remained alert and united. People watched out for one another, and no one ever trusted fake visitors again. One morning, Tom and Maria sat in the garden, sipping tea as the sun rose. The light touched the leaves and flowers, and everything felt calm. Tom looked at Maria and said, "We went through a storm and came out stronger." Maria nodded. "Yes, and now we can enjoy the calm." They both smiled, knowing that peace had finally returned to their lives. Even though they had faced danger, they had learned the value of awareness, trust, and courage. They knew that real strength was not in weapons or fear, but in staying calm, thinking clearly, and standing together no matter what. And as the gentle wind moved through their garden, they both felt grateful for the life they had built, the lessons they had learned, and the peace they had finally earned after the storm.